Hey, everyone out there. Thank you so much for tuning into another Addicted Fishing podcast. And, dude, I think this is 2 weeks in a row, isn't it, Clint? We've got 2 weeks in a row we did the podcast. It's like a record for us in a long time. But we have some new faces in the podcast. First, we actually have not really a new face, but someone you guys are very familiar with. Why don't you introduce yourself, dude?
Yeah, I'm Lucas. I guess I was around for some of the early podcasts. Haven't been on for a little bit. So
literally the very, very, very first podcast that we ever recorded with Addicted, Lucas kind of led the charge on that, was making sheets and got a studio set up for us. And that's kind of how we started the podcast. And then so many other things got busy with Addicted, and we really were focused on the YouTube channel that we kind of didn't really do the podcast for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then we started kind of doing it again just right here on Wednesday. And then we have another guest as well. Introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Jake here with Kalaka Drift Boats. Here as a proud sponsor.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Mm-hmm. Hello, Lucas. Yeah. Lucas is an old friend of mine over there too.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys may or may not know. Some of you may know, but we've been working and partnered with Kalaka now for, almost coming up on 2 years, I think, right?
Yeah, it's coming up close.
Yeah, so awesome company. We've been using the Power Drifter, the drift boat. You guys have seen them in multiple episodes, and there's going to be a lot more coming with Clackercraft in the future. But we figured, we got to get them on a podcast. We haven't had you on a podcast. We haven't had you on a live feed, so it's good to have you finally.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. I know you've tried to get me every couple times, but we're busy working too, like everybody else, right?
It's usually my fault because I'm texting him like Tuesday at like 6 p.m. like, hey, man, you want to come on the podcast tomorrow? So this time I text him like 3 days in advance. So it got
that does help a little bit.
Got him some time to figure it out here. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about Clackercraft. Like, just give us maybe just like a little bit of, history, like a quick, fast history of like when it started, how it started, and where you guys are today.
Well, shoot. It started by a guy named Bruce Bells back in the late 70s, 77. Kind of started, hobby got amok, I guess you could say, as far as he puts it. Is got a couple drift boat molds. He was building big 42-foot trawlers, and just kept building a couple boats here and there. Next, he's getting calls out of Montana, Idaho, Wyoming for 6 to 8 boats at a time to get over there. And from there, he just started building different models for different areas, the Pacific Northwest. There's a lot of different varieties, as you know, with drift boats for different areas.
I'll tell you, when I was driving, Jake, because we did a road trip out to Montana, every river that I drove by, every place that I saw a boat, it was a Clackercraft.
Well, that's good to hear.
It's crazy. Yeah. Idaho and Montana. I've seen
or a raft.
Yep.
I saw some rafts too, but if you saw a boat, it was a Clacka.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so, it's just a matter of your preference of boats, from Northern California to New York. We sent them back there. So even sent one to Hawaii before, believe it or not, for a pond, which was kind of odd.
Well, that's crazy.
But, our flagship boats are a low-profile series for, as you said, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho. We sure sell a lot of those back east. But Northwest is also a very, very big market, as we compete with a lot of the different aluminum manufacturers that build drip boats a little bit now. A lot of those guys build more primarily sleds and whatnot. But, you've seen them everywhere. A lot of the Northwest guides, as far as the coastal guides, I love the Clackamas. You guys are familiar with that? That's what Jason's using right now.
Yep.
He's pretty stoked on that. He went from a raft to the 18-foot Clackamas. He's been telling me that's shallow water stuff he's been doing on the Klamath and different things, and he's pretty stoked on it.
We're blown away with it. Yeah. We floated one of our favorite rivers, Lucas, one that we grew up fishing at 290 CFS in the Clackamas.
No way.
And didn't have to drag one time.
Wow.
Floated every rapid all the way down. We did the lower, so we did the lower bridge down to the lower pull-up. But
that's crazy.
It was, even when we launched, we tell the audience, we're probably going to have to drag a couple times today. The water's super low, and then we never had to drag one time.
No, they're amazing. There's guides using them on the John Day and that shallow water that you just primarily use rafts, like you say, and they're getting away with these Clackamaxes. They're amazing boats. But, also we build our little jet boat, the Magnum Power Drifter, you guys might be familiar with.
That's so fun.
They've really taken off now. I think we built probably over 750 of those things, and it blows me away. Started it back in late 2000s, and they are just really an all-purpose boat.
They are. They're a sweet little all-purpose boat. We have the Power Drifter right now at Clack getting a bow mount put on for that reason exactly, because I want to make it more of an all-purpose boat.
Yeah.
You need that bow mount.
Yeah, great. In fact, I just did it on Lake Shasta, and I had the transom mount, Minn Kota, And it was kind of a rodeo at times because I'm back there trying to catch fish, and so those bow mounts are just awesome. You're gonna love your bow mount on that boat because
I can't wait,
yeah, I've been up there just doing trolling with the kids even and whatnot. You have that thing hanging around your neck, and you can just steer that boat, autopilot it. Makes it a lot easier when you got friends and family with you that may not be all that great at rigging up rods, and so you're kind of doing a lot of that for them.
Yep.
So that thing's just pulling away, and pulls in the wind good, and they work great.
There's going to be some adventures for sure,
Yeah.
Lucas, on the river that you went and fished today that we got to take that thing on.
Oh, that would be ideal for
Imagine like rolling up to some of those holes that they sit in and then just spot walking on them.
Exactly. Now, actually explain a little bit of what that power drifter is, because it's kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah, I didn't go in. It's a 17-foot boat. We call it, our name for it's the Magnum, Clackercraft 17-foot Magnum. It's a flat bottom. Essentially, it's a rowable sled. So if a lot of people may not know what that means, but it's probably the best rowing sled out there. You'll see some sleds sometimes with oars on them. They're not going to row them. They might steer them down the river, but they're not going to row them. Where I've sent these up to Canada on the Bow River, Michigan, different places where for some reason they really want to row the boat. Yep. I still believe in kind of running the tiller motor, and maybe we side drift, we call it out here, but they still want to run the motor, have control with the oars. With the oars, and have control with the oars and go down the river and row it. So it works really good for that. I wouldn't say it rows as good as a drift boat by any means, but it will row, which makes it nice.
Did Jason tell you his story?
I don't know if he did or not.
He got all the way up on a river super, super far and ran out of gas.
Oh, well,
and then
guess you're
had
rowing.
to row. And so it paid off good for him.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's got a little tunnel hole in it, so you can go in super shallow water. I mean, you just don't want to go out there blind. I mean, you got to be careful on the river.
Know where you're going.
Be respectful. Know where you're going. I try to teach people, show them, the people how to use it properly. You can't just get in any jet boat and just think I'm going to go shallow water and go up river, because you could hurt people. You could hurt yourself.
You got to know how to run it.
Yeah, you got to know how to run it. And they do have pretty good control on it, but it's definitely
it's still a sled. It still slides.
Yeah,
it's like any sled when you're running. It's you got to know how to control. But I will say, like, I've seen some dudes taking that thing in less than 6 inches of water pretty consistently.
Yeah, there was a video I think Cameron did originally back in the day with one of the Magnums, and that video's got a lot of play. And he went through some super shallow stuff with that thing, and I've done some videos too with going through some shallow water, and it's been pretty impressive. I'm still blown away about it. How shallow that thing will go.
It's pretty amazing.
I went out with you, Jake, actually on the local river where you tested. I remember several years ago, and you taking it up this rapid that was just unreal. And summer fishing, so it's kind of like you really do have an in between of the sled, the drift boat thing, and it's kind of a Swiss Army knife type of boat.
It really is.
Fun.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, for everything, it's a Great Lake boat. I wouldn't say if you're going to go down to Lower Columbia, it's not the boat to get. If that's your thing. I've had guys send me pictures, and they're doing it. They're going over in the sawdust pile. They're staying over by the church, maybe Baker Bay, doing that kind of stuff. And you pick your days to do that kind of stuff. And so I tell people all the time, this may not be the right boat for you if that's your program, but
if that's what you do all the time. But if it's like, hey, we got perfect weather window, we can launch right here and then go back in right here if it's safe, like, yeah, you're good. And that's what we always tell people about Buoy 10, which is a fishery that's coming up. People always ask, like, well, how big a boat do I need down there? And it's like, that's such the wrong question to ask, because it's not about the size of the boat. It's just about, it doesn't matter if you're in a 24-foot boat or a 30-foot boat. You can still sink it down there.
Well, the thing is, back in the day, they probably used a lot of smaller boats, but the bigger boats create a lot more wakes and chop out there and stuff. So, when you get out there on the Desdemona and stuff, as you guys know, it can be, quite the boat show out there.
It can definitely be the washing.
You don't want to be in there with the little 16 or 17-foot boat with those big guys. Sure. So. But,
awesome. Well, like I said, guys, we are stoked to be partnered here with Clackercraft. And again, make sure you guys check them out if you're interested in getting drift boats, want to look at the power drifters, any of that stuff. Make sure you hit Jake up, hit Clackercraft up, just tell them that Addicted sent you. And I'm sure you're going to get a little Addicted hookup from the Clack boys for sure. So hit them up. But now we need to talk, before we jump into our subject of the night, I do want to remind you guys that this last Sunday on June 29th, our summer merch drop hit the website. So we have tons of awesome limited apparel, hats, gear, tackle, a lot of gear that you guys can check out. So a lot of you guys know what our merch drop is. A lot of you may not. So just head to the website, addicted.fishing, and please support the merch drop, because that's what empowers us to make all this content and do all this stuff for you guys that we do on a regular basis. So we appreciate you. And the last announcement that I got to make before we head over to the actual subject that Lucas was really, really good at preparing for us tonight, we got to talk about the new prize contest that we just launched. So
It's
you guys,
epic.
every year, Lucas helped me launch these. If you guys didn't know, Lucas, over the years has been like a big part of Addicted. He started it in the years way back in the day. He didn't start it, but he helped me kind of take it to a new level, I would say, back in the day, like with website work and building new websites and understanding how to make content better and SEO. And, I learned a lot of my infancy stages of that from Lucas. And over the years, he's gone different ways. I've gone different ways, but we've always stayed friends and stayed working together. It seems like in some sort of small capacity. Well, now Lucas is actually working a lot more with Addicted. He's been doing and helping with a ton of different stuff, guys. And this has just happened to be one of the things that he helped me launch. So we're launching the big summer hookup contest, guys. And basically what this is you can go on the website, you can fill out the form, and you can enter for free. You don't have to buy a single thing. You can just enter, and there's a good chance you might win. Or you can go on the website and spend money on the website. And every dollar that you spend on the website is an extra entry. And the cool thing about this is one of the biggest, largest prizes we've ever given away on one of these giveaways. Our friends at Johnson Outdoors, which is Canon, Humminbird, and Minn Kota, was gracious enough to give us an entire massive package. So you are going to get 2 Canon Optimum TS downriggers. You're going to get a 12-inch Humminbird Explorer fish finder. You're going to get a 60-inch bow mount Minn Kota Instinct, and you're going to get a Humminbird Mega Live 2 transducer. So that entire package is valued just over $12,000, guys. $12,000. Not to mention, you could win a fishing trip for 2 with Nick Popoff. You could win a fishing trip or 2 with Jason Harmson, plus a bunch of other prizes. So all you got to do, guys, to enter, go to the website, find the link, fill out the form, and you can get an entry into potentially winning those prizes, or shop. And then there is a leaderboard. The more money you spend, the more points you get, the better chance you have of winning. So a lot of you guys I see during these months, you'll go to the website and put in 10, 15, 20 orders. So we appreciate it. And good luck.
And it's automatic. It's a crazy, 10 different prizes. So even if you don't get that grand prize, which is insane, you have a chance at all these other prizes that you can take a look at. You'll look in the menu on the website. You'll see the big summer drop. And also, you don't have to put in a coupon code or anything to be entered.
Nope.
Anyone who orders on addicted.fishing from now until August 31st, you're entered.
Exactly.
And
we have a system, guys, that tracks everything in the back end, and then we will draw the winners live on September 17th this year. So stay tuned for that. And
sounds like a good package.
Yeah,
I might try
awesome.
that.
Johnson Outdoors, dude, went all out on that.
That's all good stuff too.
Yeah. So huge shout out to them for hooking us up. Colo, if you're listening to this, we love you, man. And I'm excited for whatever addict wins that out there. And if for some reason you don't have a boat, I guarantee you there's a lot of people out there that are going to want to buy that stuff from you. So even if you don't have a boat and you can't take advantage of it, it's a lot of value and a lot of good prizes that you could put to use.
You will find a buddy with a boat.
Exactly.
If you win that, your buddy's going to be really happy. And he'll invite
The guy
you
you
out.
sell it to, you might become friends with him and take a fishing.
Exactly.
Even if you don't have a boat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Lucas, let's get into the subject of the night, which me and you kind of came up with the idea of instead of doing this super targeted live feed and podcast, let's just talk about all the summer fishing opportunities that are coming. There's a ton of summer fishing opportunities that we have in the Pacific Northwest. We'll ask Jake, some of his favorites. Me and you will talk about some of our favorites. And that's kind of the subject of the podcast tonight, guys. We're just going to talk about everything summer fishing opportunity, no matter where you're at. It'll be definitely predominantly Pacific Northwest, but we will bring up some Great Lakes and some Midwest stuff as well. And try to rip through some of these talking points. So, Lucas, I'm going to let you kind of run the feed since you got the notes and you are good at it. I'll let you kind of direct the conversation. But before I do, I think we should just go right out the gate and ask Jake what his favorite summer fishing opportunity is. We're going to be fishing all the way through obviously when we get to the fall, all of us are like salmon, at least me. But what in the summer are you loving or getting excited about?
Well, I can tell you right now, I'm busy doing working like a lot of us have kids, raising kids, and got away from a lot of my, I get invited a lot to some of these trips and got away from some of the salmon and steelhead stuff a little bit. And the other day, a good friend here took me out trout fishing actually on one of the reservoirs, and it was a blast. And I like catching. So we went out there with the kids, a lot of action. A lot of times I'll go out there steelhead fishing. It might be a little slow. We'll try to get a fish or two, but had a great time. Took one of the our power drifters out there, trolled around, probably caught 20 fish, it was a lot of fun doing that kind of stuff. And, people I think kind of get busy with the salmon and steelhead stuff. And I tell you what, you got to get back to your roots. We all started that way a lot of times, maybe with your grandparents, your parents, taking you out, friends, family. And it was a blast. I mean, nothing but smiling.
There is nothing. And you know what? Bobby Loomis, actually, when I was talking to Bobby Loomis, like he said something that super like resonated with me big time. And he said, you know what, Marlon? He's like, I don't care what I catch as long as I'm catching a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And that is so true. Like, I think all of us, no matter what we're catching, if we're hooking a bunch of them, it's fun.
Yeah,
it could be a crappie, it could be a bluegill. You should have seen us when we were literally in North Carolina catfishing, and we had a dock and stuff, and all of us, like Cameron, a professional, literally bass fisherman, salmon fishing guide, one of the most respected fishermen I know, and he's out on the back of this dock, like freaking out trying to catch these bluegill. And it's just, that is what addicted to fishing is, and that's what fishing is about. So, yeah, well, that's cool to hear too. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Jake, because that's really, to me, trout fishing is just, I don't think we do it enough.
Hey, there's some technique to it too, believe it or not. There's a lot of different things you can do. You start getting your buddies in the boat and you're switching out little spoons to hoochies to, different spinners and whatnot. And you get pretty competitive, believe it or not. So,
absolutely.
It's a lot of fun, and you're in the boat together with your friends and having a good time. And, and I also just recently went down to Shasta, a blast, caught some kokanee. That's a lot of fun to do down there, along with some trout fishing, some bass fishing as well up at some of the arms. That's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of action. In there. A lot of action. I'll tell you what, it's hard to drag me out of there. It's funny. We went back trout fishing eventually, but the bass fishing was a blast. So,
yeah, it is really cool.
So, don't skip your lake opportunities, because there's a lot of fun stuff out there to do in the summertime on lakes. So.
Cool. All right, Lucas, what do you got over here,
totally.
buddy?
I mean, it's just such an amazing time, because you have opportunity, whether you're on the bank, whether you're on a river, whether you have a big old boat, there's ocean fisheries going on. I do want to go back really quick to something. You mentioned little spoons, and I remember fishing with you, Jake, at one time during one of these test runs with a power drifter, and you brought out a summer steelhead lure that I don't see a lot of people use for some reason. They use it all the time on winter steelhead, but the little Cleo, like a 1/3 ounce, and I noticed you fishing that for summer steelhead in one of our local tributaries, and
works.
I'm just a fanatic about those.
Yeah, I lost that one too. I had that one for a while. That was a good one. Little silver and
it is
blue,
hard
I'll
to
tell
beat,
you what.
dude. It is hard to beat a little Cleo. And the reality is it does get forgotten. I think in the wintertime we all think spoons, like big water, heavy spoons. Get to the fish in the currents, and it's like, all you got to do is downsize them, and they still fish.
Absolutely.
Well, it's like that, being out there sometimes salmon fishing, some of the smaller little spinners, the pink and whites, the orange and whites, the little tiny guys catch big fish sometimes.
No, Jake's giving away secrets. Jake's giving away secrets over here, but he's absolutely right. Sometimes guys, especially in these highly pressured summer fisheries, buoy 10 or some of these big salmon fisheries, like you'd be surprised what downsizing does. Just getting a little bit smaller presentation. You imagine these salmon swimming upriver, and they're seeing a lot of stuff. They're seeing a lot of stuff. And so sometimes downsizing what gets them to bite.
Big time. And so there's all these, a huge amount of different species you could fish for. I'm just going to kind of list off a couple species here. As far as the Northwest goes, we've got summer steelhead, of course, absolute favorite of mine, but we've also got river trout and cold water situations. We've got stalker trout. There's stocking going on throughout the summer. If you keep an eye on your, WDFW, ODF, and W, it is, of course, common in the spring and fall, but there is stocking opportunities in these lakes in the summer, into the deep summer. Then you've got, of course, summer Chinook and sockeye in the big water like the Columbia, and one of my personal favorites, which is smallmouth bass. The Columbia River Gorge is incredible. I was on the way back from Tri-Cities this weekend, just stopped by. I had one little rod in the car, stop off at one spot, and found a couple bass right away. Smallmouth bass is incredible. Largemouth bass, it kind of changes. I know, Marlon, you and I like to fish for them in the spring, and it can get tough in the summer, but if you time it right and you do things, there's incredible opportunity there. Then you get into the jetties and the coastal fish and surf perch. You've got rock bass, and then ocean fishing is ridiculous.
All the ocean salmon stuff's going right now, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just, it's more opportunity than you could ever think of. I mean, there's a million different things to do. There's bluegill. Of course, I like to fly fish for bluegill with my kids.
Oh, panfish and like crappie and stuff are highly underrated.
Yeah.
Like big time.
So fun. And another thing there is if you want to have fun with them, go with a lighter rod, and all of a sudden a little fish starts feeling pretty serious. So you have millions of different choices. And of course, there's tutorials all over the Addicted YouTube channel to learn about it. But conditions and things are going to change in the summer in a way that if you're used to fish in the spring or the wintertime, it is a different ball game. And so one of the kind of main things is, a lot of people that aren't necessarily hardcore into fishing do know that, hey, you want to get up early to go fishing, right? Well, there's times of year like winter where that may not be the case, winter steelhead, but in the summertime, there is something to an early morning bite for sure. But it's also something where the bite can be happening all day, and that just kind of depends the conditions you get into.
Yeah, and Jason talks about that all the time, especially for salmon and steelhead. Like in the summertime, you better get up early. Yeah. Like you better get up early, not just because the fish necessarily aren't going to bite later, but also just pressure. And then like what me and you talked about, Jake, like you, in your local river, you got floaters and swimmers and tubes going down. And if you don't get on the river early and fish, you're screwed.
You're not going to find a parking spot. You don't get off early, you might be screwed too.
Yeah. Yeah. So totally. I think you touched on getting up early, in my opinion, is crucial in the summertime.
Yeah. The rubber hatch is a real thing. And what's kind of interesting is there are rivers that are, if they're warm enough where the majority of people can swim in them or float in them, they're probably going to be packed during the summer. But there are some rivers that are glacial fed where people don't really swim as much, so moving around and finding different systems can help. But I want to ask you guys a little bit when it comes to some of these rivers, whether it be Columbia, Big River, summertime fishing, or tributaries. What kind of water are you really looking to find these fish in? How do you find summer water in a anchoring in the Columbia situation? Do the tributaries that go in, do they play into that at all? Or
no, when I'm summer fishing the Columbia, all I'm looking is for super shallow water points where the fish are getting funneled. Like that's all I'm looking for. I'm typically fishing an outgoing tide. If I'm doing that, looking for those points, over the last probably, I would say 7 to 10 years, the incoming tide fishery and the bobber fishery and stuff for steelhead has become popular, but it's still tough to figure out and not as easy as just going and getting on anchor and finding the right funnel point and catching them on a funnel point, in my opinion. So, and usually like most of the guys I know that are fishing, summer steel in the Columbia, they are fishing shallow. But the interesting thing that you'll see on the Columbia, and I learned this from Cameron over the years, is like, if you're fishing the lower Columbia, say like Longview down, those fish might be in 6 to 15 feet of water. But then as you get up towards Woodland, they might move out and be in like 38 to 45 feet of water.
Totally.
It's interesting. I think it's all water temperature thing. Like as they come up, they're getting warmer and warmer, and they're just trying to ride the thermoclines and take the most comfortable path that they can.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing in the Columbia. But
now on a, Jake, say like a little bigger system, like the one, you guys are fishing a lot over there. What type of water are you looking to find salmon and steelhead in the summertime?
You mean like more of your local rivers and whatnot?
Yeah, yeah.
I'd say salmon can be, depends where they're at and how far they're up their hatchery. If they're boogieing up, getting above places, there's some spots like Clackamas, which I'm more familiar with than a lot of rivers. They'll get up, in some of the deeper water, above the dams, and they'll mill around. Time of day, it depends. They might be a little deeper, like you were saying, a little higher. They get a little more aggressive, I think, towards the morning, obviously. Summer steelhead, they're going to hang, they're semi-lazy. I hate to say that, but they are. They're going to hang along shadowy spots, clay ledges, deeper rocks behind boulders. That's why I prefer doing a lot of bobber and jig fishing for them, pocket water stuff, because they sit in pockets. As summer steelhead, that's pretty much, they're not going to sit out in the flats. They're going to be sitting along the edges, under trees. I picked them out, under a foot and a half of water, just under maybe a log just sticking out of the river. They'll just sit there literally right underneath the log. Go by with the boat sometimes, see them move off a little bit off clay ledges and whatnot. But I would say for, steelhead wise, that's where you're going to find them. Chinook and different things, you're going to kind of look for that deeper water. They're going to sit back, in the deeper holes against the banks in those areas.
It's interesting, because like some of our rivers They do. Like, they're weird. The summer steelhead are weird. Like, they'll literally go into like a 30-foot hole and just sit there.
Yeah.
Just mill around in a 30-foot hole and not leave it like all summer.
Sure.
Yeah.
But then in that same river, you'll catch a bunch of fish like in a 2 to 3 foot riffle.
Yeah.
But like later in the year when the river gets so low, I think, and just, especially like August, like a lot of those fish, they're getting just blasted. They're getting blasted by boats. They're getting blasted by rafters, by inner tubes, by freaking everything. And they just go find the deepest, darkest, coldest hole and they don't leave it.
Yeah. And I think they probably do that, during the middle of the day, especially if, say, those rafters start getting out and stuff.
Yeah.
But they'll get out in the morning and wake back up a little bit and they'll hang out. And then then they'll kind of disappear again as far as where they're going to go, it's into those deeper holes just to get away from people. Like,
and we
said,
noticed them
boats.
moving a lot too, like you said in the early, like just like migrating upriver, like super early in the morning. Like I remember Joel from Joel's Jigs back in the day, like he used to send me videos where he'd be standing on the bank like early in the morning and steelhead would just be like funneling through, but then the second the sun come up, over.
Yeah.
Like they just wouldn't do it anymore.
That's such a huge point in general, is that in that summertime, when you do have those super warm temperatures, things change so much from the morning until the sun comes up. It happens with bass, with steelhead and small rivers and everything. So there's a lot of adjustment, and where in the wintertime you may be looking for a warming period, in the summertime it's really nice to have a cooling period. So with that, in the summertime, we have long extended days and we get to do a lot more fishing. So outside of the salmon and steelhead realm, when it comes to lake trout fishing, if you were, say, just someone listening to this,
he's not
podcast,
talking Mackinac, guys. He's talking about just fishing for trout in lakes.
Just in a lake, rather. Good point. Just say we're just talking some of these stalker trout fisheries, and you've got a pretty basic situation. You're either on the bank or you've got some little boat to get around in. What are some basics? Marlon, what are you going to suggest for people to start out with just getting into summertime trout?
They have a little boat.
Yeah, if you got a little boat or maybe a dock or bank fishing.
I mean, you touched on in the beginning, the number one thing I'm doing before I go anywhere, especially in Washington State, is looking at the stocking reports. Because a lot of these lakes around here, especially as summer comes, they stop the plantings. But what you'll notice is that they don't actually stop the plantings. They just move where they're planting the fish. So in the summer, they tend to plant the fish in a lot higher mountain lakes where the fish can survive in the summertime because the water temperatures are cooler. You're not going to see them stocking them in these lower land lakes that you see in the spring and in the wintertime where they'll put, 10,000 in a lake that's right off the freeway. Like they don't do a lot of that in these summer months. So I always look at the stocking reports, number one. If I'm fishing a lake where I just know there's trout all the time, no matter what, I'm always usually trying to go deeper. If I can get there early in the morning, just like you said, like first light, like some of those fish will come up and start feeding on bugs and stuff in the morning and you'll see them. But usually those things are trying to get in that thermocline. They're trying to get in the coldest, most comfortable water that they can find. And so I'm usually trolling. I'm putting big leads on and trying to get my stuff down there, trolling and covering water.
Absolutely. So what kind of a program, Jake, you mentioned you were out at a reservoir a week ago or so. What kind of a program were you guys using? Were you trolling? Were you casting?
We were trolling.
Cool.
Yeah, we were trolling little, just different types of, as far as flashers and, little sling blades, stuff like that, some mac lures, some dick knights, some different spoons, whatnot, worms, power bait. Yeah. Just kind of mixing up a little bit, seeing what different things were worth, and just a little bit, dragging a little bit of lead behind them just to get them down probably 25, 30 feet.
Cool.
Behind the boat. We're setting the line counters down about, 44. Depends 40 to 44 feet in there. You got to watch out for stuff depending on where you're at in there.
Totally.
And just kind of find them. I mean, my daughter had one out. She wasn't, I told her what to put it at. She had it at 25 feet and she kept catching fish. So, as far as the line counter, so she's probably only down 10 feet maybe.
Yeah,
12
maybe.
feet. So she was catching them. So,
I
guess it changes it up a little bit, depending on what you're doing. So I wouldn't say, listen to me necessarily what I'm doing, just play some different stuff and try it, And
it's going to change lake to lake. So every body of water that you're on is going to change, guys. So
100%.
If you're on the bank and you're trying to catch them, I have a hard time, not just using, I've just caught so many fish on power bait. If you can find, if you know where the deep holes are, where the fish are sitting and are comfortable, like I just throw some power bait out there and wait and let them come to me. Yeah. It's hard to beat it.
Yeah. And I think, doing corn with some of your guys' scent on there is really good too. I don't know the regs on that. You might check, because I know certain areas they don't like using corn. So I'm not sure the rules on that. Maybe you guys know more of that.
I've heard that, but I've never been able to find that in any fishing regulation anywhere.
Yeah,
I feel like it's like a
they
fable.
can't digest it or something. They're saying so. I don't know if it's maybe stockers. Maybe it's not such a big deal, but some of your different lakes, depending on if they had some trophy trout.
I know
Because in a lot of
Montana-
kokanee lakes, they use corn.
Yeah, in Montana, there was a lake that used to have that regulation. Now they allow it. So
I kind of heard something about it, so I thought I'd throw it out there. I'm not real sure on that either, but
for
I'll
sure.
tell
We
you
always
what.
try to tell people, just check your reg.
Check your regulations no matter what.
But I'll tell you what, that corn, we were just kokanee fishing it. It was amazing. It worked really well.
Shoe peg corn. It's
So,
amazing.
Lucas, we are running out of time, unfortunately, guys, because we freaking have a live feed that we have to record. So I don't know if you have like some other quick points you want to just kind of rapid fire rip through, or if you feel like we've covered some stuff good enough, or what you want to.
Yeah, for sure. I think just to wrap it up is we've got a ton of opportunity out there, and the biggest thing you want to be paying attention to: water temperature, time of day. Usually getting deep is the case, although in some cases they're in shallow, and also oxygen for fish. There is a lot of cases where fish are just looking for good oxygenated water, so it's something you want to change it up. You can find phenomenal fishing in the summer, but if it's super slow, I'd move. I'd try to do something a little different and find a different body of water, because sometimes it's just not happening on that one.
Yep. And I'll say one last thing, guys, before we end the podcast too, and I know Lucas had this in his talking points, but like, first of all, fish where the fish are at. Like, I hear so many people like, oh, I've been fishing this river for 3 weeks and I haven't caught anything. Well, then move. Go to a different river. Like, you don't beat your head against the wall trying to fish the same river if you're not catching fish, or the same lake or whatever. Move around and find other areas. And then last but not least, guys, in the summertime, in a lot of these fisheries, and the water temperatures are warm. So if you're catching wild steelhead or wild salmon, or you're catching sturgeon, or you're catching anything that you have to release, it is very important that you do not sit there and fight that fish for an hour and then bring him up on the bank and take 45 pictures of him. And when they have warm water temperatures, their survival rate goes down drastically. So you have to be really, really careful with the fish if you're going to catch and release them. So just be cognizant of that out there, guys. And Jake, appreciate you coming in, man.
Yeah, appreciate
Thank
it,
you
guys.
so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And as always, guys, don't forget, check out Clackercraft. Hit up Clackercraft. They have a phone number. They have a website. You guys can get all that information. We'll have links in the descriptions in any of these episodes where you might be finding them. And until next time, we'll see you guys on the river.
Thanks.